Hey, Bernie, I know you just like described a lot of stuff, but what do you say to this insane person? It's like, yeah, man, people are still going to vote Republican, you know?
While the Democratic Party grapples with their repudiation at the ballot box, independent Senator Bernie Sanders issued a particularly blistering statement this week, accusing Democrats of abandoning the working class.
What do you mean somehow there are only 49 senators right now that would vote yay? I'm willing to bet there's less.
And Senator Bernie Sanders is here with me now. Hello, Senator. Congratulations on your reelection. Nice to have you here. I want to start with the scathing response that you gave after the Democrats lost, Kamala Harris lost pretty big. You said the Democrats abandoned the working class. The chairman of the DNC called it straight up BS and said Joe Biden is the most pro-worker president of my lifetime. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi said she disagreed with you. She added, quote, Bernie Sanders has not won. Do you stand by what you said?
Oh, absolutely. Look, Joe Biden is a friend of mine. I've been proud to work with him on an agenda which has been very strongly in favor of the working class. Biden promised to be the most progressive president since FDR. In many ways, on domestic issues, I think he kept his word. But here is the reality. The working class of this country is angry, and they have a reason to be angry. We are living in an economy today, Donna, where the people on top are doing phenomenally well, while 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. 25% of elderly people are trying to get by on $15,000 a year or less. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, and parents all over this country worry that their kids may have a lower standard of living than they do. That is the economic reality. And what Donald Trump did is provided an explanation. He went around, he said, I know you're angry, and the reason is that zillions of illegal immigrants are coming over, and they're eating your cats and dogs and everything else. That's the reason. Well, obviously, that is not the reason. The reason is, in my view, that we have an unprecedented level of corporate greed today, more income and wealth inequality, and people on top want it all. And we need an agenda that says to the working class, we're going to take on these powerful special interests and create an economy and a government that works for you. And by the way, that can't happen unless you get big money out of politics. We got to get rid of the Citizens United Supreme Court decision so billionaires do not continue to buy elections.
And I know that you heard President Biden and Vice President Harris tout over and over the record of supporting workers, helping the middle class, some of the things that you were instrumental in helping pass, like lowering the cost of insulin. You saw the president walking a picket line. They forgave student loan debt as much as they could. You said yourself in July that he had a strong record, which you just repeated here. So it sounds like it's not maybe as much about policies and more about messaging and communication.
It's not messaging, Donna. It's a fundamental understanding of saying, look, the Biden administration has done a lot of good things, period.
I agree.
We should all be proud of that. But it has to be put in the broad context of the reality of the American economy today. And that is when you have three people on top owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society. When you have millions and millions of people working for starvation wages.
This is what Kamala should have done too. Like, expand upon the accomplishments of the administration and say it's not enough and we are going to go way beyond.
You got to speak to that reality. So you could say, look, we're proud of what we have accomplished, but we have so much more to do to create the kind.
I gave you a week off because you asked true or false is Hasanabi is the Benny Johnson of the left. Benny Johnson wishes he had my real motion. I'm not propped up by the fucking institutions in the same way that he is. When you come back in the next week, if you have some fucking stupid ass opinions like that, you might get banned permanently. Pack watch, R.I.P. Bozo.
Kind of government and nations that work for all of us and not just the few. That's my critique. It's not that the Biden administration did not do a lot of good things, but it has to be put into an overall context where in the last 50 years, if you can believe it, Real inflation accounted for weekly wages are lower today than they were 50 years. A massive transfer of wealth from the bottom 90% to the top 1%. That's not Joe Biden's fault. It's not Trump's fault. That's what's gone on for 50 years. Recognize it. Deal with it. Tell the working class that you understand what is going on in their lives. You're going to fight for them.
The top aide, former aide to John Fetterman and Harry Reid, Adam Jenelson, told the Washington Post that Democrats are preoccupied with the narrow interests of college-educated elite activists more than everyday working people. Do you agree with that?
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying here, is that the vast 60% of our people live in paycheck to paycheck. How do we not talk and fight for raising the minimum wage to a living wage? Dana, on Tuesday, in the election, in the state of Missouri, a conservative state, they became one of the many states that voted, I think, 58% to raise the minimum wage. Now, how is it that in Congress and the Senate, we haven't even brought a damn minimum wage bill onto the floor? We are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. The Affordable Care Act is a stopgap measure. It is not addressing the real health care crisis in America. Why aren't we saying, yes, health care is a human right? We're going to take on the insurance companies and the drug companies. We're going to pass the PRO Act to make it easier for workers to join unions. We're going to expand Social Security by lifting it up. We're going to demand that the billionaires start paying their fair share of taxes. You know, Dana, all of these issues that I'm talking about, these are not Bernie Sanders' ideas. These are, without exception, popular ideas that Democrats, Republicans, and independents support. Now, the people who don't support it is the billionaire class, and they got a lot of power. But we've got to be prepared to take them on.
But what the voters supported is a man who would never do any of what you just said. I mean, not even close.
Right. But what that man named Donald Trump did do is he said, I feel your pain. I know that you're hurting, and I have an explanation. Well, his explanation was bogus. You know, millions of people coming across the borders.
Why do people just refuse to understand this basic point? If one party is not addressing the pain that people are experiencing, and the other party is taking advantage of that pain and redirecting that anger to, easily attacked minorities, then yeah, people are stupid enough to fucking tap in with the other party. That's it. I don't know how much I can simplify it. I don't know how much Bernie can simplify it. You have to be, I guess, getting paid the big bucks like Dana is to refuse to reckon with that. That's the real problem here. You can't convince someone if they are professionally unconvincible.
Legal, we have to strengthen the borders. That goes without saying, but that is not the cause of the problem. The cause of the problem right now is to have a small number of people on top who have enormous economic and political power. How, for example, can the Democrats not say, look, we got to get rid of the Citizens United? Mm-hmm. In this campaign, in the Republican Party, Democratic Party, billionaires exerted their power. Most Americans know that's wrong. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so we've talked about the economic issues, which, of course, that's number one. Then there's the social and cultural divide that seems to be happening between a lot of people in America who used to support the Democrats and what is now the Democratic Party, or what's perceived to be the Democratic Party. White voters largely propelled Trump to victory in the race, but there was a major shift. The exit polls showed that Latino voters, especially Latino men, shifted more towards Donald Trump. Biden won them by 23 points in 2020. This year, Trump won them by 12. I want you to listen to what a Latino voter told my colleague Ed Lavandera this week.
We believe in, teaching our kids about God, our Christian values, family values, and the Democratic Party is.
Hey, Bernie, I know you just described a lot of stuff, but what do you say to this insane person? It's like, yeah, man, people are still going to vote Republican, Nobody said if you do this, nobody is making the argument that if you run on improving people's material conditions, that there aren't going to be people that are still nah, fuck that. I hate that. Yeah, there will still be people who vote against their best interests, especially after they hear, Yo voy a votar por Donald Trump.
It's embracing all the woke, left-leaning ideas that it doesn't go with our values.
Do you think it's the Democrats pushing Latinos to Trump, or is it Trump bringing in Latinos?
I think more Democrats are pushing Latinos to Trump.
What do you think of that?
Well, what I think is that Trump.
Like, dude who probably gets bullied by his immediate Latino coworkers who also voted for Donald Trump is not exactly the median Latino voter. Like, that dude in his workplace is getting bullied by other Latino dudes who also voted for Donald Trump. And you're over here being like, well, what about this insane guy? Like, look at him. Bernie should be like, look at this man. Do you think that he's got everything right? He's wearing Donald Trump's hairpiece in a visor, and he went and purchased a sticker to slap on the brim of the visor. There's always gonna be insane people. It's like looking at it's like people coming in here and being like, Hasan, you said there was not a single pro-NATO voter out there. Ryan Ruth destroyed that argument. What do you say to that? And it's like, yeah, okay, you got me. You know what I mean? He's in jail, so he was a little too crazy, don't you think? Free him. Free him so he can vote.
Trump has done a good job in claiming that Democrats do nothing more than the woke agenda. In my view, what Democrats have got to focus on, and tell that gentleman, do you want a minimum wage that's a living wage? Do you think health care is a human right? Do you think we should build the affordable housing that we need? Do you think we should take care of our seniors by expanding Social Security? So I think the emphasis has got to be, of course, and wiping out all forms of bigotry. And the Democrats should be proud of standing up for women's rights and abortion rights and gay rights and civil rights. But the emphasis got to be is to make it clear that we are prepared to stand with the vast majority of the people, many of whom are falling further and further behind, while the people on top do phenomenally well. That's a message that, in my view, will resonate with the Latino community and the entire working class community.
Let me give one example, perhaps, of this kind of dynamic that we're hearing about. Joe Rogan, very popular podcaster, he endorsed Donald Trump in the final days of the election. 4 years ago, you went on his podcast. You got a lot of blowback for doing that and for touting that he endorsed.
Yeah, Dems are fucking annoying. What else is new? They love weaponizing identity politics cynically to smear people. Dana knows all about that, by the way. I mean, she does that on a daily basis. Whenever people are like, hey, Dana, it's kind of wild how much you fucking support Israel. That's like pretty weird. Seems like you're pro-genocide. They're like, wow, this is the most anti-Semitic thing I've ever heard.
You. So is this the kind of example of Democrats perhaps shunning or vilifying people who don't totally agree with them?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Look, you can have an argument with Rogan, agree with him, disagree with him, but what's the problem going on in those shows? It's hard for me to understand that. So I think we've got to get, and clearly you have an alternative media out there, a lot of podcasts that have millions and millions of viewers.
Yeah, Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders. So, in the words of Ryan Grimm, Mehdi Hassan, myself, and many others, we did have a Joe Rogan on the left. His name was Joe Rogan.
Get on the show. Disagree with you here. I agree with you there. I don't see a problem in doing that. And you're right. I got vilified by some of the Democratic establishment because I went on Rogan's show. Now a lot of other people are doing just that.
Before I let you go, you were a steadfast supporter of Joe Biden. You were saying that he should not drop out. There's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking going on, and a lot of it is that, in fact, he should have dropped out earlier or perhaps never run for a second term.
I don't want to get involved in that. You know, we got to look forward and not in the back. Kamala did her very best. She came in, she won the debate with Trump. She worked her as hard as she possibly could. Let's look to the future and not go backwards.
Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you so much. Congrats again.
Hey, if you like this video, please subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss out on any future videos.